Okay, joining us now on the Wisconsin Family Podcast, Andy Herman, Pack a Day Podcast. Andy, thank you for coming on today. I want to jump right into it with you here. So we've spent the past 3+ years speculating on Jordan Love and what he may or may not be. So I really don't want to get into speculation here. What I'd rather do is talk more in facts. And my question is, what does Jordan Love need to be in order for the Packers to have immediate and future success?
That's a great question, and thanks so much for having me. I think it's a difficult question to answer in some capacity because certainly Packer fans have come to a certain standard of quarterback play in the just as Packer fans and with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. So I think certainly he doesn't have to be that in year one. I don't think he even has to be that as the be all end all from when his career is over. But I think a couple things. You're looking for a level of competence from Jordan, right? This is not a rookie quarterback. This is a quarterback in his season. He's had 3 years to learn behind Aaron. And I don't think anyone's expecting him to come in and be a top 10 quarterback in this league. But I think the hope is certainly that he's not a bottom 5, bottom 8 quarterback either. And that he certainly has some sort of floor that isn't too low and that he can come in and compete right away and hopefully help the Packers win some football games. But I think the bigger thing for Jordan through the course of this year is really just that consistent growth and improvement, right? This is going to be a learning curve for him. This is a true progression. He had those 3 seasons to learn, yes, but his first year as a rookie was a true redshirt COVID season, no training camp, no OTAs type season. Then he gets to be the backup. He gets to start against the Chiefs. And then last year, you see him come in against the Eagles. He plays a little bit, here and there. But this is his real opportunity to be the guy, the starter. And every defense in the league is going to throw the kitchen sink at him and see what he can handle. So it's going to be there's going to be some bumps in the road. There's going to be a learning curve, but how does he handle that? How does he handle adversity? How does he handle his teammates? How does he pick them up when the team is down? How does he find ways to win in the NFL? And can that be a true consistent growth through the course of the season? I think usually as Packer fans, we're talking about the end of the season as like, all right, Green Bay needs to be playing their best football so they can be ready for January and February and hopefully making a run at a Super Bowl. I don't necessarily think that that's the case. If that were the case this year, and obviously I think they have every opportunity to be a playoff team potentially. But I don't think anyone's expecting like this crazy run. If that happens, that's a bonus. But what I want to see is in that same vein, Green Bay and Jordan Love playing his best football at the end of this season, that he learned from some of those early mistakes, that he had that growth, and that he really looks like a legitimate starter moving forward for Green Bay towards, throughout this season, definitely towards the end of the season, and then hopefully beyond.
So staying with Jordan Love, one of the things that I love about you, Andy, is everyone can tell that you do your homework. So that being said, when you have an opinion on something, it carries a lot of weight to
Thank
me.
you.
So yeah, absolutely. My question to you, with that in mind, is so you talk about Love and hoping that he is showing progress throughout the season. As we start to look at him, assuming that he plays even a decent amount in the preseason, what should Packer fans be looking for out of Jordan Love in the preseason to say, okay, well, he's on the right track?
Yeah, I think you're looking at, just some of the mechanics. I think you're looking how he performs under center, some of his checks at the line of scrimmage. Preseason is not going to be the time where defenses are throwing the kitchen sink at him, right? It's a lot of vanilla stuff, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, stuff that you are expecting to see, in a week-to-week basis in the NFL. So you're going to get a blitz here or there. You're going to have to diagnose it. But I think what you really want to see out of Jordan is him hitting the layups. It's not, if there is a player that he identifies down the field that's open, that he's hitting those throws, and it's not a contested catch because Jordan threw it behind him or over him or through, whatever that case may be. So I think it's really just him showing command of the offense, and which he's shown in training, even on day one of training camp, but certainly OTAs and mini camps as well. He looks like the guy. If you didn't know that this wasn't the starter, you would just have assumed it naturally, just based on how he does have command of that offense. But I think it's just kind of the consistencies and like the not forcing balls where they're not supposed to be, and just kind of taking taking the easy stuff when it's there, making the layups and not making any sort of catastrophic mistakes. So in preseason, that's what I'm kind of looking for. And then once you get to the regular season, the calculus totally changes with how defenses are going to, sort of scheme against you. And then when that happens, it's like, all right, they're going to show different things. Like, how does he just adjust to that and overcome that? And does he, like, as a quarterback, you've got to have answers to the tests in like rapid pace, right? So you like when you're looking at a quarterback like Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, so many times they know the answer to the test before they even ask the question, before they even blitz the guy from the right side. Those guys know, all right, yeah, that guy's blitzing from the right side, and they know where to go with the football. They're checking at the line of scrimmage. Like, do you know the answer of where to go with the ball if X happens, right? And whether that's 8-man, all out blitz, whether that's an 8-man coverage or anything in between, you got to know how to respond to that, whether it's a zone, whether it's man, whether it's a mix of both, cover 2, 3, 4, 6, whatever it is, you've got to have the answers to the test. And I think that's what's going to be really important to Jordan in real time come the regular season is how does he respond to all those different questions that are thrown at him? And is he prepared for that? And does he know the answers?
Again, talking with Andy Herman here, Pack a Day Podcast. So I'll just lay it out there. First day of practice today. How did Jordan Love look?
Yeah, ups and downs. Like I mentioned, he had complete command of the offense, looked like the starter. I thought intermediate passing was really, really good. He hit Romeo Doubs consistently over the middle of the field. Last throw of the day was his best throw, navigated the line of scrimmage, stepped up in the pocket, little drop the arm angle, sidearm kind of throw to hit through a window to hit Samori Toure in stride on a big gain down the field. That was a really impressive play. But there's going to be some downs as well. And I thought this one was his deep ball throwing. Now, to be fair and to be clear, windy day. There was a lot of wind down the field, especially so that right outside of the Dunn Hudson Center where they're practicing, there's you get this sort of this windshield from the Hudson Center. And then on the opposite side, it's like you get some of these swirling winds and you can see it affect the punters, the kickers, and the quarterbacks from time to time. They're on the end where there were some winds, but four opportunities. He's got a ball to Luke Musgrave. Musgrave wins off the line of scrimmage, gains easy separation against Corey Ballantyne, has him beat, and Love underthrows it. And maybe Musgrave could have come back to the ball better and made a better opportunity at a contested catch. But Musgrave is open. That needs to be on him, and that needs to be a big completion. Left side, Christian Watson, deep corner route, has, I think, Rasul beat on the play, open, but Love misses him left and out of bounds. He did another great job of navigating the pocket, stepping up against pressure, getting through the pocket, keeping his eyes up, and seeing Samori Toure breaking wide open down the field on a deep crossing route. Toure's wide open, but Love leads him too far to the right, and it ends up being complete, but out of bounds, so obviously incomplete. And then you've got a ball deep down the right side. Maybe Romeo has a quarter of a step on Jair, but Jair was in great coverage. But that ball also underthrown. Jair turns around. If he'd turn around quicker, he may have had an opportunity to make a better play, / maybe have an opportunity at a pick on the play. But either way, Jair gets his head turned at the end. It's an easy pass breakup and should have been, more of a 50-50 ball at least had that ball been on Romeo a little bit more. So some of the deep ball passing, a little bit of an issue on this day in some windy conditions. But that's something that I think Jordan's going to learn from. And outside of that, there was no ball that you're like, man, I can't believe he threw into triple coverage or threw a easy interception or misread something or anything like that. I thought he did a really good job of commanding the offense and reading the defense. He just got to make some of those throws a little bit more consistently.
So you mentioned Musgrave in your answer there, and this may be kind of a hard answer, but out of all these rookie tight ends and wide receivers, give me one that you're the most excited about.
You said just the rookies?
Yeah, out of the rookies. Yep, out of the rookie receivers that are tight ends.
Yeah, easily Musgrave, and it's not even particularly close. I mean, the dude's different, and what that equates to will remain to be seen. What that equates to in a rookie season will remain to be seen. He needs to improve greatly as a blocker. That is readily apparent right now. But you talk about a fast, strong, physical, speedy, great body control, good hands type tight end. I mean, this is the most athletically gifted tight end they've had since Jermichael Finley. And again, not even close, in my opinion. He has the ability, to run away from defenders, to open up windows for his quarterback and get hopefully some of those easy completions. He's going to be a mismatch piece as a big receiver / fast tight end, whatever you want to view him as. I think Matt LaFleur might have to be a little bit creative to begin with due to some of maybe the blocking limitations. But let's also be very clear here. No other rookie outside of Anders Carlson at kicker has been handed anything except Luke Musgrave, who has basically been tight end one since OTAs and mini camps and was again during the course of practice and day one of training camp. So he is going to play. He's going to play a lot. Now, that being said, Tyler Davis, Tucker Kraft, Josiah DeGuara also played with the ones. It looks like there could be a very heavy rotation at that spot, but I don't see Luke Musgrave going anywhere. He's far too talented, and I have a feeling Matt LaFleur has been very busy in his doodle book figuring out ways to get Luke Musgrave into advantageous positions on offense.
All right, talking again with Andy Herman here, Pack a Day Podcast. I want to flip over the defense here with you here. A couple of quick questions before we let you go. First off, wanted to ask about Joe Barry. Now, he's had multiple tenures as a defensive coordinator, including the last 2 years here with the Packers. Now, he's never had a top defense. Why would that change this year?
Until I see it, I don't believe that it will, and that's not necessarily just a Joe Barry criticism. I think we have some defensive coordinator PTSD right now in Green Bay, right? Whether it is the second half of Dom Capers' regime, whether it was almost all of Mike Pettine's regime, whether it was now almost all of Joe Barry's regime, we haven't seen consistency at defense. We haven't seen any sort of theme, any sort of identity that this defense has taken on and tried to have. And that is despite the fact that this team continues to pump money and top draft picks onto the defensive side of the ball to try to have one of the league's best defenses. Now, that's not been all perfect on the GM's part, from Ted Thompson to Brian Gutekunst. There have been some missteps along the way with identifying talent, with letting players like Micah Hyde and Casey Hayward walk. We don't need to go through all of that. I think everyone knows some of the missteps along the way. But there has been a lot of talent here at the same time. And I don't think that anyone would argue that the defense has lived up to expectations. Now, it's the same thing from a special team side of things. And we've just seen too many bad special teams. And I know Rich Bisaccia's unit took a step a season ago. You take Keyshawn Nixon's second half of the season out of that, that's still a bottom three special teams, arguably last year, save for Keyshawn Nixon sort of saving that group. And that was not the plan, right? They kept playing Amari Rodgers over Keyshawn Nixon by design before they sort of stumbled into Keyshawn Nixon. So there were still plenty of missteps on special teams. We've seen players not maybe in the right positions and in the right scheme defensively. Until we see consistently this defense and this special teams doing the right things and showing that they can be a top 10 defense or special teams, it's just hard to believe. And like I said, that's not just Joe Barry related, but I'm going to believe it when I see it. And I'm done with my prognosticating days of saying that this is going to be a top 10 defense until we actually see it out on the field.
So back to the point that you're making there is, you said it's not just a Joe Barry thing. Does that fall on LaFleur squarely?
So, and what I mean from, I guess that side of things is that like it hasn't just been Barry, right? It's been, Mike Pettine's defense. It's been the end of the Dom Capers era. Like it's been some time now. That being said, I think it's sort of a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, right? And what I mean by that is I think there's certainly plenty of blame to go around with Joe Barry. I thought, some of the defensive stuff, it didn't seem like, Joe Barry and Jerry Gray were always on the same page, with what they were trying to do in the defensive backfield last season. And now obviously Jerry Gray is gone. And then I think too, I don't know that you have had a perfect marriage of the players that Brian has acquired with the scheme that Joe wants to run. And I think that's such an important aspect that can go, overlooked from time to time and undervalued, is you really have to match up the right players that you need with the system that your defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator, in this case, Matt LaFleur on the offensive side of the ball, are trying to run. And defensively, they need, if Joe Barry's going to run two high safeties and play, back and a little bit more conservative and say, hey, we're going to make you beat us down the field, which is very in vogue throughout the course of the NFL. All right, you better have some intimidating safeties that can come up and fill the lane in run defense. They don't really have that. You better have corners on the outside who really want to be involved in run defense. Last year with Stokes and somewhat Jair, they didn't really have that. And you better have some big physical defensive linemen up front. Sorry, there's a fly in here, but you need the big physical guys up front that need to be able to eat up blocks and free your fast inside linebackers like Devondre Campbell and Quay Walker. They got Clark and Slayton can be that a little bit, but Lowry wasn't that. Jerron Reed wasn't really that. Wyatt's not that. Colby Wooden's not that. Carl Brooks isn't that. So I think there is a little bit of a disconnect between talent and scheme. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I put that more on Joe Barry because I'm a believer that you cook with the ingredients that you are given. And it's up to Brian Gutekunst to do the shopping, and it's up to the coach to figure out what you can make with those ingredients. And you just can't say, well, I'm going to run two high safeties, and this is what I'm going to do. If you don't have the guys to run that, you better start running something different. I think that's honestly when Matt LaFleur stepped in more towards the end of last season and started saying we need to be more aggressive. We need to play a little bit more physical press man coverage. We got to play to the talents and strengths of the players on this team. I think that's when you saw things turn around a little bit towards last year. So definitely something to keep an eye on defensively this year and just kind of what type of defense they're running with these players.
All right. Andy Herman, Pack a Day Podcast, joining us here on the Wisconsin Family Podcast. Andy, appreciate you joining us. If you want to take a moment, just tell people how they can follow along with you on social media, get your stuff, YouTube, anywhere else they can find your work.
Yeah, first of all, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate that. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack a Day Podcast. And of course, you can find the podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your favorite podcast as well, 365 days a year.
All right, Andy Herman, Pack a Day Podcast, joining us. Andy, thanks again. We'll be right back here on the Wisconsin Family Podcast.